So wouldn't you know it, just a couple of hours after Newswave went up, a Nintendo Direct got announced, which is exciting stuff because while most people right now are kind of on the bandwagon of, yeah, there's gonna be a Nintendo event, but what kind of event? It's not a mini, it's not a partner, it's not an indie, it's a full 40-minute general Direct that most people now are lining up next to what we'd expect for an E3 Direct. So I figured today I would go over some of my predictions and some things that have already been kind of rumored to be at this showcase. So if you guys enjoy the video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if new here to the Spawn Wave channel. Now, I've broken this up into two sections. One kind of being what's been put out there already. For example, a new 2D Mario. I think that's obvious. It makes a lot of sense, and it would go alongside of the success for the Super Mario movie, where brand recognition for Nintendo and Mario feels like it's at an all-time high. If you have a 2D Mario game, it is more approachable for the general audience and consumers, so that makes a lot of sense. I'm just curious what the art style will be and maybe what new wrinkle they'll have introduced here to make it feel a bit different than some of the older 2D Mario games. We also have this Super Nintendo Classic remake that's been rumored, and there have been two games thrown out there that sound and feel unbelievable, but if it happens, it would definitely get a reaction online. One being Chrono Trigger, and the other being Super Mario RPG. So some lofty expectations, and either of them I'd be really excited to see, especially probably Super Mario RPG, because that was always already a very unique art style back in the 90s when it came out on the Super Nintendo. So I almost wonder how they would adapt that to current times, what they would change up, and really how it would look and how it would play as well. Also, that'd be an interesting partnership between Nintendo and Square to even make that game possible. So I'm kind of leaning towards that, even though Chrono Trigger, it's Chrono Trigger. It's an awesome game. The other things that we've heard quite a bit about would be the Metroid Prime 2 and 3 remasters. These not being on the level of Metroid Prime remake or remastered as they call it, but let's face it, the thing is basically a remake. These will be a bit more scaled back and essentially just set up to run correctly on the Switch, specifically Metroid Prime 3, as that relied heavily on the motion controls with the Wiimote. Metroid Prime 4, it's been brought up, but I feel like it's been brought up in the sense that it's been a while. Seems like we're getting close to the end of this generation. Might be about time to show Metroid Prime 4. And you know what? I think that's the way you close out. For example, as you're getting towards the end of the Direct, you can introduce Metroid Prime 2 and 3 remasters as games heading to the eShop, probably with a digital-only release later on this year. And then you go, oh yeah, we have one more thing to show you, and we're going to close out the Direct with it. And then, boom, Metroid Prime 4, and we get our first actual look at something other than a PNG for the title. We also have GameCube games that have been rumored to see remasters for the platform. I have two, but the one that has at least been talked about extensively is F-Zero GX Remaster. I do believe we're going to see that at some point, and this feels like the best time to do it. That being F-Zero GX from the GameCube, brought up with online multiplayer, and again, thinking more along the lines of smoothing out the visuals and making it at least function on the Switch. And F-Zero GX, if you play it on the GameCube now, still looks really good through one of those HDMI or component cable hookups. Persona 3 Reload has been... Atlas has desperately been trying to tell us that this is coming to the Switch for like a week now, really since it was shown at the Xbox Showcase. So it seems like this is where it would also get revealed, but I guess we'll see. Pikmin 4, I believe, is talked about by Nintendo as being here. It makes sense. It's out next month, so sure, we'll find out a bit more about Pikmin 4, I guess. Wind Waker, Twilight Princess HD. That's been discussed. Apparently, Nintendo's had this collection ready for years now. So, again, getting towards the end of the Switch's life, seems like you start pushing out some of these remasters to fill in the gaps as they prepare for the next generation system. Everybody want to Switch. We need to see gameplay for that. Right now, we just have a title card, an image of what I assume to be in-game of two actors, and then the pre-order button. So, again, feels like the only time Nintendo would really be able to talk about it in a large event. Some have wondered if there would be some sort of hardware here. I don't believe there will be next-generation hardware. However, I'm not willing to rule out all hardware. Specifically, like, we see new accessories for Nintendo Switch Online at times shown here for, like, the Nintendo 64 controller. I wouldn't be shocked if maybe we got a Switch Lite OLED announced. pretty standard basic stuff there for release later this year. But no, I wouldn't expect Nintendo to show up and talk about anything beyond the current Switch hardware in terms of that X1. Okay, let's talk about heavy speculation, things that may have been discussed here and there, but isn't really out there as much, and some just not even really discussed. Mario Baseball came back up recently because of that advertisement that was shown at the Mariners game, Nintendo owning 10% stake in the team. I don't think that necessarily is connected to this, but I do believe Mario Baseball should come to the Switch. I mean, if you think about it, they've done all the other sports series other than Mario Baseball, so why not have all the different Mario sports games represented on the platform? Dragon Quest III, the HD 2D remake, we haven't really seen much about that, and we do typically see a lot of Japanese developers and publishers show up in these Nintendo Directs. This would be a great platform to show off Dragon Quest III, and I hope they have plans for that. Deca Police is another one that seems to make a lot of sense here. It's still coming out in 2023, according to their page on Nintendo eShop and all of this, so seems like a good spot for a release date. Metal Gear Solid Classic Collection. This feels like something that's lined up as a slam dunk for Konami, which means it might bounce off the back of the rim for them, the way they are sometimes. But if you have the Metal Gear Solid Collection, that volume 1 of games, like what Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3, maybe Peace Walker or something. I think they even have some of the MSX ones in there, right? If you have all of that lined up for the Switch and you have a physical copy, I mean, I'm there day one buying it, but I think it'd be awesome to see these games come to the Switch because we have them on the Vita. They don't run that well. And obviously people look at the Switch now as kind of the successor to the Vita in the sense that you have those console level experiences on the go. And yeah, I think the Switch would run these Metal Gear Solid games obviously perfectly fine. We just need to get them there. So I'm hoping Konami is smart enough to make that happen. Seems like the Classic Collection is set up perfectly to go to as many platforms as possible. So I'm holding out hope that they're smart and have it here at the showcase. Final Fantasy Tactics Remastered. I've talked about this at length for a while. It's in that NVIDIA leak list, so I'm basically all in on it being a thing. And once again, this makes a lot of sense to showcase it here for Square Enix to appear with their Dragon Quest III, HD 2D, and their Final Fantasy Tactics Remastered. And there is a new generation of gamers who have never played Final Fantasy Tactics, and I'd absolutely recommend this one to them if and when it does get announced. I mean, we have Tactics Ogre. Why wouldn't you do Final Fantasy Tactics as well? So in a sense, I'm actually expecting it completely to be here. And I even threw in another GameCube remaster, one that I kind of think makes sense in the current environment right now with what we've seen recently with Disney getting Star Wars all over the place. I mean, they're trying to do a Star Wars release like every 6 months or something. I think it'd be awesome to see the old Rogue Squadron games show up here, like specifically the ones on the GameCube, of course. But man, some of those Rogue Squadron games were awesome on the GameCube, and they still look good now. Can you imagine some of those titles being remastered and set up for the Switch? I mean, you get 1080p 60 frames, no problem out of them, and they clean up really nicely. The GameCube version still looks good, again, through an HDMI connection, let alone you put it into Dolphin and do all the upscaling and texture packs. It looks like a current-gen game just about. And then finally, I put down The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom DLC, which sounds crazy because the game is already massive, but we've seen Nintendo with this trend that they have recently, really this generation. They like to announce downloadable content before the game even comes out. They didn't necessarily do that for Tears of the Kingdom, but I still think they can follow up with an announcement of more content coming to the game through way of a pass that they would sell, a season pass basically, and it would allow them to run this game up to and release basically again for their next platform, because I feel like Tears of the Kingdom is a game that they are legitimately going to be selling, like from a first party sense, brand new, for potentially the next 10 years or so, and having downloadable content, a package with a complete edition even for the next platform, would make that a lot easier to do. Now, I didn't really put anything down for Nintendo Switch Online with new systems, mostly because I think Nintendo's basically tapped out completely with that for the N64 and the Game Boy Advance. I don't think they're going to GameCube this generation, as they seem to like to remaster those games, and I'm not really sure how they would get DS to function correctly. So I feel like at this point, they're just going to continue to add games to the service, along with maybe something like a Tetris 99 or a Super Mario 35. That is what I would more expect as an announcement, some kind of one-off game just to add more value to that subscription service. But Nintendo Direct season is always really exciting, especially when we're like a day away from it and we know it's this big general E3 level Direct. So let me know what your thoughts are around the showcase, and of course, let me know what your wild predictions are down below in the comments. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.